your Noles still getting the job done. They haven't been the best covering team, and they haven't been covering big spreads, but hey, they're winning games. I guess that's all that really matters from their perspective. They're back at home, 17 and a half, totals at 56. Are you going to this game by chance?
I might. I haven't decided yet. It's tough to
Nice.
do two Tallahassee weekends back to back because it's
Oh, you can do it. No, I get
it's
it. It's a lot. I even like my drive to the Denver Broncos games. It's like
Mhm.
35, 40 minutes, and it feels like a whole trek, whole day. Granted, it's the Broncos too, so it's a little different. Like when you expect your team to win versus not, that plays into the equation. But obviously, the market really likes the Noles here, 17 and a half. But do you get concerned though that they haven't covered like big spreads? Virginia Tech last week, what, Boston College? I might be missing one.
Mhm.
Does that kind of factor into what you think here?
Yeah, so I looked into that and just from, watching the games, being at the games, the the I don't know if you saw some of the behind the scenes stuff with the refs for this last game, but we had a lot of very ridiculous penalties and uh, Coach Norvell went out on the field and was yelling at the refs, and they have all these pictures of him circulating online of him yelling at these refs because it's been like that for the past few games. It obviously there's some ACC animosity there for
Mm-hmm.
obvious reasons. Um, so if we didn't have a lot of those uh, unnecessary, I mean, some of them were just blatant. I'm not even saying that as a homer, as a fan.
Yeah, like it was pretty objective. It
It was
was
obvious. It was
bad
very
call.
obvious with some of those. So if if we did not have some of those penalties, we would have covered because we came within like 2 points of covering or something like that. So that stat, we didn't cover. Obviously, Boston College was just a disaster. But
That was a weird game. It was that like special game for whatever his faces. They have the red bandana game. Like, yeah, that was a really weird game.
yeah, and they had their 18 penalties. The
Yeah.
record 18 penalties in
Yeah.
that game, and
So
and
many false
still
starts at home too.
crazy, just one after the other. And then, I mean, they should have won that game. And then Clemson was also a weird game because of that kick. He missed that kick, so they could have won that game too. So there have been a lot of really hairy situations. But the thing is, so I know these past seasons don't matter, but FSU's 13-2 in this matchup. Syracuse doesn't play well at home, or sorry, on the road. Syracuse does not play well on the road, and they don't cover on the
Mm-hmm.
road just based on just historical stats, especially against conference opponents. And they're going in the wrong direction. We've seen this episode before with Syracuse as far as starting undefeated last year, and
Yeah.
then that's kind of the trend that they're on now. I mean, they've got a bunch of injuries. They've got a great quarterback, Shrader. If we can keep him from, running on us somehow, which I'm kind of afraid of a little bit. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
little nervous about that because our run defense hasn't looked that great. And this FSU team has yet to play a complete game, right? They just have these weird lapses, and you never know when those are going to come, whether that's a first half lapse or a second half lapse, right? So if it's a first half lapse, they usually respond well, like we saw it with the LSU game. If it's a second half lapse, then obviously you're just kind of clinging onto your seat, wondering if they're going to cover the spread or not, because they just came out flat in the second half, or whatever it is. But Jaheim Bell should be back this week. He had a great practice according to the sources. So he had a good practice. He was banged up in the last game, which is why he only saw like 7 snaps or something like that. Johnny Wilson got banged up in Virginia Tech as well. And he may or may not play. It's one of those things. He may sit out this game and then play against Duke.
Mm-hmm.
that's coming up also at home. So, but with Jaheim Bell coming back, I feel much better about that. And then obviously Coleman and Toafili and Benson had a phenomenal, I think he got
Yeah.
ACC Player of the Week or something last week. So I, these big spreads are, I never really feel comfortable with them, to answer your question. 17 and a half is kind of where I feel like either we're going to win by 14 or it's going to be a blowout. It's one of those things where I just don't feel comfortable at that, 14 to 21 range. Like
Hmm.
that's about, because I feel like penalties and just like stupid mistakes here and there can swing that one way or the other. So I actually took a weird play here. I took FSU first quarter -6.5. That is the only play I have locked in.
Nice. Just getting off to a fast start, and then hopefully 7-0.
Yeah.
That's it. You can turn the game off. No, you won't, because you'll be watching the rest of it. But, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the team's going to be fired up. They're honoring the national championship team at halftime, the
Ooh.
93, because it's the 30th anniversary of the first national championship team. So they're going to be honored at halftime. And I think the guys are going to be, well, hopefully they'll come out, they'll be fired up. And then even without Johnny Wilson, I mean, I think it's a solid win. I don't know about the cover, because the other thing too is with Jordan Travis is, and I don't know if you've noticed this, Ben, but sometimes he gives up the safe plays to go for the big plays. And
Yeah.
sometimes that costs us, we could win more convincingly if he didn't, put on these theatrics. And I think that he's just not comfortable sometimes because he doesn't have a consistent guy in the slot, which hopefully Jaheim Bell will be able to fill that role. So
Yeah, I think he like tries to just like boost his stock and like show that he's this really good player, but I think it just backfires sometimes, and
yeah.
he's not taking what the defense gives him. One thing I wanted to mention about Garrett Shrader, uh, I don't want to say he's a bad quarterback, but I'm not as high on him maybe as you are, and I think for me, it's just because his passing has been so bad, and of course he's a dual threat guy, which makes things complicated because he can make plays on the ground. Some of his like stats, they don't look as good on the surface because of sacks, right? Like for example, he's 10 of 28, 15 of 24, 10 of 50, which that's a good stat. But then you have a game like against Purdue where he's 25 of 195, and he does have 6 rushing touchdowns on the year. But if he can't get first downs on third down and run and get those first downs, he's just not making those plays with his arm enough. And for me, with Florida State's defense, I think that could get him into some trouble. So I like Florida State to cover. This did open at 20 on Circa, but it hasn't crossed 17. So it's kind of in that no man's land, because 18, 19, it's like that's, games rarely land on that number. So I lean Florida State, and I don't have really any opinion on the total either.
It went down to 17. So when I saw it went down to 17, I was thinking about taking it. And I still might, because I think that, like you're saying about, to piggyback off of what you're saying about Shrader, I think a lot of the numbers are inflated too because of their schedule. So if you look at the schedule they've played, I mean, their best win is what, Purdue maybe? I don't know.
Let's see here. Yeah, they've had Syracuse to me is just always such a weird program. I don't know why, but they're 4-2. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I mean, it would probably be Purdue. They did beat